So last weekend I went to go and see the movie adaptation of In the Heights, which is one of my favourite musicals, so I was very excited to see it. And the thing is, the movie was good, it was enjoyable, it was the feel-good hit of the summer. But they just changed so much from the original, and the thing is, I hated almost every single change, which that's not a good thing, is it? And I know what you're thinking, if it's an adaptation, surely they have to change things, otherwise what's the point of making an adaptation? They should have just filmed a stage play like they did with Hamilton. Okay, fair enough. There's that argument, and then there's what In the Heights did, where it cut half of the songs. So you see how, as a fan of the original musical, I might be a bit frustrated. I'm just going to casually chat about the issues I had in the musical while I do my makeup. It is, 21 degrees right now in London? So if it starts melting off my face, it starts melting off my face. I think it's pretty obvious because I just said that I'm going to get into all the issues I had with the play, but spoilers for both the original musical stage production and the adaptation. So I think the first issue that I really had when I was watching the film came in the first number, unfortunately, and it was when Jimmy Smits walks in and as Kevin Rosario, and Usnavi just says, "It's Kevin Rosario, he runs the cab company." Now, fans of the original musical will know the Rosarios, there's two of them. There's Camilla and there's Kevin. And Camilla actually has quite an important role in the original play, because when Kevin and Nina start fighting over the Stanford issue, Camilla is the one that sort of resolves everything. And they're very much like a sort of back and forth. There's a constant back and forth between these two characters throughout. And it's quite enjoyable to watch. But no, instead they decided, I have to assume they made this decision because Jimmy Smits is a very famous and very talented actor. They clearly thought, oh, we can't have him in a double act. He has to be a solo act. Which, that's frustrating. I've just finished watching The West Wing for the first time ever. And in that, he manages to be President of the United States while also having a great wife that he has great chemistry with. I know she's not Latino, but was Terry Polo not available? So the thing about the changes that they made to the Kevin Rosario character in relation to his conflict with Nina, that I sort of understand why they would make that change, because in the original musical they stopped fighting because Camilla sings a song called Enough, where she basically just says, you two are being childish, that being Kevin and Nina, and you should just resolve your conflict and Nina should go back to Stanford. It's kind of like, that's it. And the change they made in the film is that Nina decides that she wants to go back to Stanford because she learns that, because Sonny is undocumented, that he can't go to university and she wants to help him. Now I can see how this would be a good change, because it gives Nina more agency, makes her a more active character in her own narrative. She doesn't just get told off by her mum and then immediately drop everything that she, all the issues that she had with Stanford. So I understand why that change would be made, but I just from a completely personal perspective, number one, I wanted to see Jimmy Smits having, cast Gina Torres as Camilla. Something like that. Like, I really would have loved to see another actor playing off him. And number two, that song, Enough, in the original soundtrack, is one of the funniest songs on the soundtrack, and it's always something that when you're listening to it or when you're watching it, it's always something that you are, waiting for, you're hopefully anticipating, because of how over the top and campy and ridiculous, but brilliant that song is. So the second issue I have with this adaptation is how they changed Vanessa's character. So I understand that giving her a reason to leave the barrio, giving her a Suanito as seems to be sort of the theme of the film, being that she wants to be a fashion designer. I get how narratively that's a good idea. I do. The thing I had a problem with is the fact that they kind of erased her relationship with the other salon ladies. Like, they really kind of went from... One of the things I really like about Vanessa in the original is that there's this trope that you see again and again in romance, especially those written by men, that if a girl is special, it's because she's not like the other girls. It's because she doesn't like makeup, she doesn't like the salon. She's just, you know, so unique and perfect, and that's why, you know, men fall in love with her and things. But in the Heights in the original, Vanessa's not like that. Vanessa is very much one of the girls. In the original, the trio of salon ladies is Daniela, Carla, and Vanessa. And then the adaptation, we have this random character called Kuka, who I think is only there because they want Dashka Polanco. She contributes absolutely nothing to the narrative. And I'm just sort of sitting here like, okay, so the money you put aside to pay her salary, you couldn't have paid to an actress to play Camilla. So those two major things were the first issues I had with the first half of the film. And then we sort of have such a strange detour in the second half in that, you know, they cut about half the songs of the second half out, which really irritated me. The second half of the production, they cut about half the songs. The most egregious issue I had with the second half is what they did to Blackout, which is the end of Act 1. It's this really great song. It's probably like one of the best on the soundtrack. I'd say that in 96,000, right up there with the best on the soundtrack. They like sort of sung a couple of bars of it, and then they would have drama in between. Then they sing another couple of bars, and it just like, and they didn't sing the whole complete song, and I was just so angry. Yeah, like I said, one of my favourite songs on the soundtrack. But also, there's this thing that they changed, a very small thing, in that when they sing the "Look at the Fireworks" line, they are talking about fireworks that Sonny and Graffiti Pete put out. But that, in the original, the reason they were looking at fireworks is because it's the 4th of July. And so they, by erasing that, they erased this layer of, like, very obvious, I'll grant you, very obvious social criticism about, you know, the role of Latino communities within America. But that's what Lin-Manuel Miranda does. He does obvious social critique set in New York. And so, instead of having this extra layer to it, and all the chaos that ends with Benny and Nina kissing and the, like, final moments of Blackout, that song gets butchered and, like, cut into segments. And then it goes to Paciencia y Fe, which they changed, and it's just entirely like Abuela recounting her life before she dies. And she dies in the original too, but in the original, Paciencia y Fe is like her now suddenly having opportunities because she won the lottery. And yeah, actually, here's another thing. Because they got rid of, you know, having Abuela learn she's won the lottery, instead she just leaves a ticket to Isnavi, that's just bad, and it erases some of her agency, and especially because it seems like so many of the choices that were made regarding the female characters in this film were specifically made to enhance their agency. Don't like it. I also have to say about Blackout is that in the original, there's like a scene between Graffiti Pete and Sonny where it's like implied there might be something going on there, like little bi Sonny, you know. We have gay, canon gay Daniela and Camilla, not Daniela and Carla. We have them being canonically gay. Why can't we have little bi Sonny? I mean, I don't think Graffiti Pete or Sonny speak a lot at all when they're like a double act in the original. This is another just small thing that I just didn't like. In the original, you know, we know Nina is the estrella, the star of the barrio, because she is the first person to go to college. And I liked that about her, but I also like the fact that she's kind of, everybody else is kind of, you know, she's the nerd, I suppose. I wouldn't say everybody else is cool, but, you know, they're definitely like, they have, you know, reputation for being, you know, the funny ones or the gossipy ones, you know, the sort of standard high school tropes of the community that you get. Whereas, you know, Nina is the nerdy one. She's the one who has spent her whole life trying to get into college, trying to, you know, change the fate of her parents. And please ignore my brother screaming upstairs. But then in this, so essentially in this adaptation, Benny and Nina are portrayed as exes. And the reason I don't like that is because that kind of changes an aspect of Nina's character. Like, she's the nerdy one, and she has never had time for relationships because she's been so busy getting into a fucking Ivy League college, hasn't she? Whereas in this one, it's like, oh, you know, she was just, by having her be, and then Benny be exes, it's kind of like she was just one of the gang, when that's the whole point of Nina as a character, is that, yeah, the gang love her, but she was always, she was always slightly left out, because she was always going further, and that's why everyone is so surprised when she announces that she's dropped out of Stanford. And again, that's just a little issue. Like, it's literally just one line about, like, who broke up with who? But it irritated me. And also, furthermore, this is a wider issue I'm going to talk about later, about the, I won't say whitewashing, but the, like, there's been a lot of controversy about this film and about the fact that it basically erases the Afro-Latino community. I learned that 1/4 of all Afro-Latinos in America are, no, of all Latinos in America are Afro-Latino. But you wouldn't see that going to see this film. And in the original, one of the reasons that Kevin Rosario is, you know, unreasonable to Benny is because he has a racist bias against the fact that Benny is black. And that gets erased in this. Like, the conflict scene between the two of them is like, I don't know, it's just a conflict between men, I suppose. Or a conflict between a boss and a subordinate. And there isn't that added layer of social commentary about how anti-blackness can exist in all communities, even other communities of colour. And I just think that's a very important thing to discuss, and it was kind of felt like a cop-out, kind of felt a bit cowardly, I suppose. Were you just like, oh, if it's mainstream, we can't discuss, you know, very relevant and complex issues such as anti-blackness within other communities of colour, you know? And then, of course, there's the fact that, you know, there are all the black characters in it are not Latino. And, I don't know, again, this is why they should have had a Camilla. We should have had an Afro-Latino Camilla. But we should also just have had more Afro-Latino actors in it, full stop. There are lots of Afro-Latino dancers and things in the background, but, like, that's just so insulting. It just made me think about, generally, how there's been, like, an explosion, I suppose, of more films and TV and media that are specifically about the Latino experience. But then when I think of those TV shows, like, they so frequently, they do not have any Afro-Latino representation in them. Examples that I'm thinking of are Jane the Virgin and One Day at a Time. I'm sure there are more examples of this. But those are both, you know, they're family-based and all that, but it's not just family-based, there's like a large, you know, this family exists within a larger Latino community where they live. And, again, it's just this erasure of 1/4 of your community. Annoyingly, my camera cut out before I could get to the last 2 points, but I'm going to finish off what I was talking about in terms of black Latino representation. The director of the film, John Chu, has already been criticised for, in Crazy Rich Asians, he made everybody look, I believe, ethnically Chinese, when the specific area that the film took place in was much more diverse than that, and Marina Watanabe has a much better video on it than what I'm spiralling about now. My point, really, that I had the most issue with, especially in terms of black Latino representation in the film, was that this film was about the goal of representation, because, you know, big blockbuster films that are love letters to Latino cultures are not made very often. For within this project that is deliberately designed to be about representation, for them to choose to exclude 1/4 of the community, it's just racist, really. I mean, I suppose that's my conclusion to that. The final point that I have is the thing that they changed that I liked. They changed Sonny's backstory. In the original, we don't get a lot of Sonny's backstory, I don't believe. I think that are led to believe that Usnavi and Sunny and Abuela all lived together. I don't think he has a dad in the original. In this version, they sort of swapped his backstory with Vanessa's, because in the original, Vanessa has an alcoholic mother. In this version, Sunny has an alcoholic father. Of course, the major change they make is that Sunny learns that, well, we learn that Sunny is undocumented, which I think was a really good change, because there is this, well, there has been, I think it is changing, but there is this narrative of the good immigrant, which is somebody that speaks English fluently before they even step on a plane. It's somebody that is documented. It's not somebody that would go to the extent of, say, a lot of the refugees that have been coming to Britain lately, they get on trucks. They drive from Paris to the UK. That is completely unacceptable. That level of desperation is always seen as, you know, stealing from the country. If somebody is, you know, if somebody goes to the effort of fleeing a country without the correct documentation, there's no compassion shown towards them. There's the automatic criminality. And that fucking plane. Well, the plane is making my point for me. Who knows who's on that plane? It's probably just some posh people breaking lockdown. It's probably people going to Love Island, actually. Yeah, the Love Islanders are definitely on that plane. I wonder if they wear any clothes on the plane. I bet they'd just go straight onto the plane in bikinis because they don't want to ruin their fake tan or anything. I do watch Love Island sometimes. I am going to make a video about it later. I think by having Sunny's dad be this, you know, monosyllabic alcoholic uncle, you see more of the bond between Usnavi and Sunny, because the bond between them in the original, it's just sort of, you know, it's a joke. There's a lot of humour, it's the Sunny, you're late. But then you sort of see gradually through the production that Sunny actually really cares about the business as well, even though he says, obviously in 96,000, that he really doesn't care about the business. But then in Blackout, we go and see him and Graffiti Pete setting off Roman candles to protect Bodega. I don't think we know the name of the bodega, it's just the bodega. So that I enjoyed, and I also think it sort of contextualised Sunny's political spirit more, I suppose. I mean, you don't have to be undocumented to have a political spirit. I mean, I just think if you look at cities like New York or London, where I am, and if that doesn't radicalise you against gentrification, then I don't know what possibly could. But I do certainly think that it was the correct move in terms of deepening that character, that, you know, in some productions he's just comedic. He's just this crazy kid that has all these political opinions. But in this one he had nuance and depth and a heart, and you really feel for him, I think, at the end. I think he's very much the heart of the story, him and Abuela. And I think in conclusion, the thing that frustrated me the most about this adaptation, and the changes that I didn't like, is I feel like it became so much more about the individual characters and their struggles, and less about the community. Like, we saw the community, but the important characters were all slightly removed. Like, Kevin Rosario doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have a, you know, relationship with Daniela and Abuela. And Vanessa isn't one of the salon girls. She's the other girl. She's the better than them girl who's going places. And that was frustrating because it's a musical about the community, and it's a musical about the fact that these are all some very normal people that all have these dreams, and, you know, all these chaotic things happen, but the beating heart of it is that this community is still beautiful even though it's been neglected and maligned. And I think, yeah, it was a love story. It definitely was a love story to the community. This film definitely made me appreciate Carnaval del Barrio much more than I did in the original soundtrack. I just still found every change they made to weaken that overall community narrative. And I think that's where I'm going to conclude it. Two more things. I love Dan Ramos as Usnavi. He's great. He's a great actor. He's too hot to play Usnavi. This is like when we came out of the cinema, my brothers, the first thing we all said to each other. It's like, he's too hot. Lin-Manuel Miranda pining after Nesta like that. You can not believe that. Anthony Ramos? Like, was he not going for him? He's short? Like, short men are taking over the world. Have you seen the Jonas Brothers? Like, have you seen Martin Compston's wife? Short men are taking over, so that's not That's not an excuse to say that he's somehow not attractive, because it's ridiculous. You might be a really great actor, but sadly, you're too attractive for this role. And number 2, the little daughter at the end. They missed the trick not calling her Claudia. I'm just saying, like, Iris is a lovely name. Should have been called Claudia. I'm going to be making more video essays in the future, but if you want to see another, like, chatty, just me sharing my off-the-cuff thoughts about a piece of media or a subject, please, you know, like, comment and subscribe so that I have reason to wake up in the morning and put lots of makeup on my face, which I will then abruptly sweat off throughout the duration of the video. Thanks for watching. Bye!